Hello and welcome to episode 251 of the Fab Female Nutrition podcast. I am your host, Wendy Hill, and I am a nutritional therapist and I specialize in supporting women in midlife. And I was having a chat with my friend about this the other day and we're saying, well, what is midlife? What do I consider midlife and what do others consider midlife? And I said, well, actually for me, it's probably that 40 to 55 age group. Now, that's not to say that if you're not the age, stop listening to the podcast. Please don't do that. But we were trying to define this as it's a term that we use quite a lot. So midlife for me, those middle years. And for me, I think the key that we came up with midlife was saying that this is a period of your life where things might be changing. And it's an opportunity to rethink what's happening and to optimize your health and well-being, to make changes that are going to have a positive impact on your health now, but really for the future. And I think this is the age where you start to think about, if I do this now, how is that going to impact how I feel in 10 years, 20, 30 years time? Whereas in your 20s and 30s, you feel a little bit invincible a lot of the time and you're not really investing in that long term. And I think there comes a point where you suddenly go, oh, okay, that doesn't feel great for me now. And actually, how is that going to feel for me in a few years' time? You know, what impact is that going to have on my long term? So that's me. That's what I do. And that's how I signify midlife. Just a little bit of a side note there. I am a nutritional therapist. My business is Hill Start Nutrition. But what I wanted to tell you about today, before we dive into the podcast, is a wonderful free community that I have over on Facebook. So if you are on Facebook, pop over. I'll put a link in the show notes anyway. But pop over and look for Fab Female Community. So Fab Female, just like the podcast, but Fab Female Community. And over there, I have a lovely free community. It's a little gated community, so it's lovely and private and secure. And in there, you can ask me questions. And a lot of the topics that I talk about on the podcast are because of questions that I get asked about in the community. And also, if I have a topic on the podcast, that I'm going to share things in the community. So this week, I'm finally getting into what we're doing this week. So this month, each month we have a different topic. And this month, I'm talking about supplements, supplements that I get asked about a lot, and supplements that I think you might, or nutrients, let's say, rather than nutrients that I feel that you might be lacking in, that we need to sort of talk about. So a bit of both, really. And this week, finally, we're going to be talking about collagen, because I get asked about this all the time. And I think it is, particularly for women, it's become one of those kind of, it is biohacking, you know, there's no getting away from it. It's biohacking, but it's become one of those supplements that we take more and more regularly. I find it's quite unusual for me to come across a client that isn't taking collagen. That's not to say everybody takes it, but when they're coming to me, I'm seeing people perhaps in a different stage where they've perhaps tried things before. They're already doing things to support their health and well-being, and they're probably already dabbling in the kind of supplements world. And collagen seems to be one of those ones that they take. So what is collagen? Let's talk about what is collagen, because there's so many out there. That's the thing. Like now, literally, my phones are all around me. I've talked about collagen. What is going to happen the minute that I take a break from recording the podcast is I'm going to have all of the collagen supplement brands are going to be up there on my feed, in my Instagram feed and stuff. Your phones are listening to you all the time. Siri has a thing about my voice. I don't know what it is. It doesn't actually understand me, but it picks my voice up. It must be something to do with the tone and stuff. So I can be having a conversation in a group of people and somebody's phone will go, I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that. And it'll do it on the car when I'm talking to my husband. He's like, it never does it when you're not in the car. When you're in the car, the voice app on the car stops doing what it's doing and kind of goes, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. Could you repeat it? And it happens to me all the time. So I don't know what it is about my tone, but anyway, that means we know that our phones are listening to us constantly, scanning, waiting for you to give it instructions. That's what, the voice apps are for, isn't it? To wait for those instructions. So I know I'm going to get loads of collagen kind of brands coming up on my feed, and there are so many out there. So let's break it down first into what collagen is, and then we're going to talk a bit about different types of collagen and, dosing and things like that. So first thing is collagen is a protein, okay? It's a structural protein. So it's an amino acid, and think about it like scaffolding. So it gives strength, but it's also, think about it a bit like bamboo scaffolding. So it's a little bit elastic as well. They're particularly useful for our skin, our joints, our hair, our nails, and what I talk about quite regularly with clients is the lining of your gut. So collagen can really help repair gut lining as well. So I will use it in things like my 28-day transformation program as a repair for the gut lining. Production naturally declines as we age. There is no getting away from that. It just declines. So we do make it naturally ourselves. But that's where we've started to think about supplementation in later years, is because we know that we're not making as much. And so therefore, if we're supplementing it as we get a bit older, then we are hopefully moderating those aging signs. So, helping our joint health, helping that skin elasticity as well. But not all collagen is created equal. And this is one of the issues that I have with it. So there are 3 different types of collagen. I don't want to get too caught up in it, but type 1 is really for our skin and our nails and our bones. Type 2 is in our cartilage and joints, and type 3 is again in our blood vessels, and it's often paired with type 1. But we utilize collagen quite efficiently, so we don't have to worry too much about that. This is just kind of thinking about how the supplement industry are using it, to be honest. Generally, if you are buying, so here's a bit of a side note here. Before we talk about supplements, I want to talk about the natural ways that we can take bone broth. Now, I believe, and this is a survey of one, I believe, these are my thoughts, so you come on my podcast and you get privy to my thoughts. I believe that one of the reasons that we feel that we need to take collagen supplement is because we are no longer getting collagen in its natural form in our diet. Let me explain. So collagen is abundant in bone broth. If I could give you one thing to do, one takeaway from this podcast would be to make bone broth. Now, not everyone has the time, not as everyone has the inclination. And also there are going to be people listening to this who don't like the idea of bone broth, to be honest. However, if we go back just a couple of generations, bone broth would have been a staple in our diet, because we would have utilized all of the animals. We would have been very clear about that. So I remember my grandma, we would have, perhaps let's say a chicken. So you'd have a chicken on a Sunday for Sunday dinner. Then they'd have cold cuts on the Monday, probably with something like bubble and squeak. So the leftovers of the veggies and the potatoes. Honestly, there was never very many leftovers in my family. I reckon she just had to make more potatoes and more cabbage the next day. We're all massive eaters, but in theory. So then there would be kind of leftovers and bubble and squeak on a Monday. And then Tuesday, maybe she managed to pick a bit more chicken off the bones, and it might be kind of that she's making some kind of a soup or a stew. But what she would do is she would boil the bones down to make the stock for whatever she was making. And that would be rich in collagen. And we just don't utilize, and I'm saying we as a general term, and if you're shouting at the podcast going, I do, well, good for you, well done, brilliant. But most people now have kind of lost that contact with it, have lost the not necessarily the knowledge, but it's just that, at the end of the day, she was a stay-at-home. She worked even in later years when her children were sort of teenagers. My aunt is the youngest, and she's 7 years younger than my mom, I think. So she had one later, so it wouldn't have been until my aunt was in her 14, 15. She used to work a couple of days at Boots, and she loved it. I know she loved it, but she was a stay-at-home mum pretty much. So that was her job, was to cook and feed the family, and she did it in the best way that she could. But also they lived quite thriftily. So making that that joint last, that meat last was really important. And so utilizing that bone broth so that everyone was fed was really important. And we just have an abundance of food available. We live differently. You know, we buy cuts of meat rather than joints of meat. And so we don't even have the bones. I mean, you think, you know, many of people who are listening to this podcast probably will think back and think, I don't remember the last time I had a bone. When was the last time you got a whole roast chicken? It's like, oh, well, everyone only really likes the breast, so I'm just going to buy the breast. If you buy really good quality chicken and things like curries and stews and stuff, pies. Oh, God, she was a great pie maker, really good at pastry. Got cold hands in our family, so we can make good pastry. So it was, you know, making pies and things like that with it, you know, is much better with kind of the leg of chicken. And I love a really kind of cheap cut, like slow cooked cheap cut of meat. So this is what I was, sorry, I've kind of digressed a bit, but the point is that we don't naturally eat in our diet bone broth as much as we used to. It's become a bit of a like a kind of a bougie thing to do, really. I regularly eat bone broth, so my freezer is often full of bones or full of bone broth because I'll save the bones. Like I'll maybe buy chicken and I'll wait till I've got 2 chickens, and then I'll boil them up. So best way to do it is put it into a slow cooker or a big pan and cook it really, really, really slowly with loads of water, maybe a bit of herbs and stuff, but you can just put water in. You can put some carrots, some onion and stuff if you want to, and you just boil it for ages and ages and ages. So chicken, or I would then kind of go for beef would be the other one. If you do beef, you can roast the bones off and that makes it a kind of a little bit of a darker stock and it's a bit of a richer stock. So these are the things that you can do to create it. And then what I do is put it into little pouches, freeze it, and then I've got bone broth frozen for when I want it. And I put it in anything that I would put a liquid in. So any kind of soups, any stews, lovely noodle dishes. So I make like a posh pot noodle. Recipe is in the Fab Female membership for those of you that are members. And I make a lovely posh pot noodle. And it's just basically some noodles with some bone broth, with some flavouring, like a, you know, curry paste or whatever, loads of veggies, pop it in the microwave for a couple of minutes, stir it, and you're done. And you've got a posh pot noodle or a ramen bowl if you're kind of under the age of 30. But if you're kind of my age, it's a posh pot noodle. So that is how you can eat more bone broth. You can buy bone broth. So you can buy collagen, natural forms of collagen from the supermarkets. Borough Bone Broth is one of my favorites. Freya is another brand available from, or not sponsoring this podcast, just my favorite brands, available from most of the big supermarket brands. So you can get more collagen into your diet just by thinking about those older methods. Used a lot in Asian cooking as a base for the foods. And I wonder if that's because they use much more vegetables and far less protein. And so you were getting the protein from the stock rather than from, you know, the added extras. So possibly. So really thinking natural. If you want to do a natural way and not spend loads of money on supplements, you can easily do it through making or buying and consuming bone broth. Also really great for your gut health. And the thing is that you're getting other ingredients when you're eating bone, when you're consuming bone broth. You're getting gelatin, you're getting other amino acids, you're getting minerals as well. So we're getting it as a whole food source, which is what our body is meant to be absorbing. So it's all well and good taking a collagen supplement, but our body processes supplements in a very different way to it processes foods. So there is that element of, if we can get it naturally, we really genuinely should. However, if you do want to take a supplement, then let's talk about that. So there are 2 different types of supplementation, marine or bovine. The marine collagen is made from fish skins. So generally in the UK, in the West, we wouldn't be making collagen from this source. We'd be making it from the bone broth. But it's made from fish skins. Really good, lots of type 1. So really thinking kind of skin, nails, hair, all that elasticity. So holding off the aging is what we're thinking when we're kind of for our skin and stuff. From a beauty point of view, that's what we're thinking. It's quite small molecules. It's quite easily absorbed. And it's, like I said, it's very good for skin health. Then we're thinking about bovine collagen, which is the type that I'm going to be making from my bone broth. And this is kind of type 1 and type 3, really. It's a little bit cheaper for the manufacturers to make. So you'll see quite a lot of the bovine collagen, but the molecules are a little bit bigger. So it's a bit harder for us to absorb. Now, what you will see on some supplements is it's called hydrolyzed. There, see, I can't even say it. Hydrolyzed, and it's you'll see it on as collagen peptides. And basically, what this means is that the manufacturers have actually broken down the particles to make them even smaller, to make them easier for our body to absorb. So that's just something to be aware of, that this can make it much easier. So if you can see something that's got collagen peptides in it, that's a really good sign, because it's a smaller a smaller molecule, so it's going to be much easier for your body to absorb. So look for that when you're buying your collagen supplement. If you're not going to be eating your lovely bone broth, or maybe not enough bone broth. I tend to do a bit of both, if I'm honest. I do some bone broth and some collagen supplements. Now, really, you should be, it's not much point taking a collagen supplement unless it has 5 grams or more of collagen in it. That is kind of when you see studies, so studies are done generally on supplements, and have an improvement on things like skin elasticity, maybe joint health. So we're thinking getting rid of aches and pains, joint health, skin elasticity, then minimum that we see on these kind of studies are 5 grams of protein. So really that's the dose that we're saying has a beneficial impact on our health and well-being. If you find, you see like protein bars, or I don't know, a latte that says with added collagen peptides or something, you're going to get no benefit from that. Yes, it's a nice to have, but you're not going to be getting a good dose, a useful dose of it. And the other thing to understand about collagen is that it takes time to work. So you're not going to take a collagen supplement for a couple of days and suddenly notice that your joints or your skin are feeling much better. You need to be taking it for a while. I am a huge fan of collagen for our insides, not just our outsides. Many people will take collagen supplements saying, well, I don't want to get saggy skin, blah, 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 blah. So therefore, I'm going to take collagen. As we age, our elasticity of our skin drops. This is partly due to the drop in estrogen. Collagen can help with that. But collagen is also brilliant for our joint health, for that kind of, think about lubrication within the joints. We forget about that sometimes when we're thinking about the benefits of collagen. And as I said earlier, it's great for our guts. It's really great for our gut health. Just want to say a huge thank you to our podcast sponsors, Revive Active. Now, they do 2 supplements that contain collagen, and I recommend these differently to different clients depending on what they want to achieve or what their biggest concern is at the time. So in our house, my husband takes the joint complex because yes, he would like to look a little bit younger, but actually his biggest concern is his joint health. He suffers with aching joints, with kind of with elasticity of his joints, so lots of tendon issues and things. So he takes joint complex because joint complex has 5 grams of protein, perfect, but it also contains glucosamine, it contains vitamin C, it contains MSM, which are all things that are going to help him utilize that collagen better, but also things like collagen and MSM are really, really good for his joint health. So he's going down the joint line, whereas I take the beauty complex, which has 7 milligrams of collagen in it. So a little bit more collagen in it. It also has vitamin C in it. Vitamin C, you need vitamin C to be able to absorb the collagen. So if you haven't got vitamin C in your collagen supplement, you need to make sure that you are taking vitamin C. So eating an apple, small glass of orange juice at the same time as your collagen supplement so that your body can utilize it. Little side note there, vitamin C, collagen go together. Need them both at the same time. So if it's not in your supplement, then take it. If you're eating your bone broth, it's likely to be in your, you've got some veggies in there. They'll have vitamin C in there. Job's a good one. Food comes complete. But I take beauty complex because it also has things like selenium in it as well. So it's really thinking about my my skin health, hence the beauty complex. So really thinking about which one you want. Love Revive Active supplements. They do a wide range. Think about them like kind of multis with bells on, really. Pop over to reviveactive.com and use my code Wendy10 at checkout to get 10% off as a thank you for listening to the podcast and so that they know you've been listening as well. So let's think about collagen again. So the pros and cons. Right. So it has got evidence to say that it will improve elasticity and hydration, especially with the marine collagen. We know that it's going to support joint pain and recovery as well. And we know that it's going to support the gut lining. So really good if you've got any of those. Great if you've got gut issues. If you're worried about aging, you want to help your skin health, or if you've got joint pain and you want support with recovery. Super, super important for that. As a side note, my brother is just recovering from quite a severe operation and I'm giving him a bone broth supplement. It's like every single day you need to be taking this. And then we're just bringing in the joint complex as he comes off some of his other medication. We're bringing in the joint complex as well. It's really going to help him repair. He's got tissue damage. He's got skin damage. He's got cartilage damage, joint issues, all of these things. This is going to help his body focus its attention, giving it the ingredients to do that repair work. Yes, we're not all walking around having had a major operation, but that's what we're thinking our body's giving it the ingredients so it needs it. You really think the cons, I think, really are, quality matters. So you want to know where it's come from. You want to know it's been tested for heavy metals. We don't want heavy metals in our supplements. It's not suitable for vegetarians or vegans, sorry. So we would be thinking about plant sources, but it's an entirely different kind of game. And I think we just need to be honest and say sometimes, I would be going down the lines of nuts, seeds, thinking about omega-3s, that kind of thing. If I was thinking about how to support someone's skin, joints, who was a vegan. They are expensive. It's not cheap to take a collagen supplement. So I am quite consistent with my sachets, but I also take bone broth. If you're not consistent, you won't see the same results. It's not to say that it's not working and some is better than none, but you're not going to see the same results. I think this is particularly in joint health. I think not so much, you don't notice it so much in skin. I mean, my hair is so thick. It's thick anyway. But my hairdresser said, it's just getting thicker and thicker and thicker. And I genuinely believe that it's because I'm taking the beauty complex. It's really helping with, the thickness of my hair, the health of my hair. But I don't think you would notice it quite so much. But I do think taking the collagen for joint health regularly every single day, that's when you really notice the positive impact on it. And I'm suppose I will be getting a positive benefit from taking the collagen. Even though I don't feel that I suffer from aches and pains, I probably don't because I'm taking the supplement. Do you know what I mean? I do quite a lot of yoga. So yeah, it kind of goes. So we're not saying you have to take it. But if you are looking to support, then this is the way, so looking to support your joints, looking to support that skin elasticity, thinking about which type you want and making sure that you get the right, at the minimum amount. So a minimum of 5 grams a day, ideally 7, maybe even 10 grams a day. And for me, really not forgetting the basics like the bone broth. That was it from me from this week. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you have any questions about collagen that you would like answering, then you can either comment on the show notes, you can post a picture of this episode and you can ask me over on Instagram or pop over to my community, Fab Female Community on Facebook, and come into there and ask me any questions you like. I'm always hovering around in there answering questions. We are going to be back next week with magnesium. So if magnesium is something that's been on your radar or you're taking, you want to know a little bit more about, then tune in next week. And if you know someone that is obsessed with collagen and you think they need to know a little bit more about the types and how much to be taking and whether or not they're taking the right amount, then please share this episode with them. Thank you so much for listening, guys. I will see you next week.